Welcome to Hartman Math. Today we're going to take a look at complex numbers again. Before we get to that, a little warm up, review a little bit of complex numbers right there, maybe and here. Just go ahead and simplify and solve. Pause the video here until you're done. All right, number one, let's remember that when we take the square root of a negative, we're going to get that imaginary unit I coming out. So that would be I root 72. Now we want to break it down. Keep in mind we do want the largest perfect square that goes into 72, so we don't have to keep breaking down more and more. So I think 36 is what we want to go with, so root 36 times root 2. That becomes 6. And then we're going to switch places, 6i root 2. All right, number 2, we could try to factor, but it's not going to factor, so I'm thinking x squared even here. Let's do completing the square. Let's go minus 10 both sides. Then we've got to figure out what we're going to add to both sides. So divide by 2 is 1. Square that, you get 1. So we're going to add that to both sides. We're going to write the left side as a binomial squared. We did square positive 1 to get that, so it will be x plus 1 in the parentheses squared is equal to negative 9. Now we're ready to square root both sides. X plus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 9. We're going to go minus 1, do that in front of the plus minus. The negative is going to come out as I, but what's the square root of 9? 3. So negative 1 plus or minus 3i are two solutions for that one. This is lesson 4.11, Complex Numbers, Part 2. Where we're going to focus on doing operations on our complex numbers, such as adding our complex numbers. And we want to make sure that we answer, although it doesn't say, we want to answer in standard form. And both of these are in standard form because I comes last and I comes last. With the addition, it's really pretty basic. In fact, we could just treat the i's as variables and we're good for the addition as well as the subtraction. So we've got 4 plus 1. We've got 5 plus negative 5i plus negative 8i. Because we don't even need the parentheses. So we'll just regroup those. 4 plus 1 is 5. Positive 5i, negative 8i makes negative 3i. Make sure you wrote I last. That guarantees you got standard form. Subtraction pretty much works the same way, but remember when we were doing polynomial subtraction, we would need to distribute the minus, so we'll need to do that. Then we can remove the parentheses. So 4 plus 5i minus 1 plus 8i. And now we'll just combine like terms. 4 minus 1 is 3. 5i plus 8i is 13i. Go ahead and pause here and see if you can simplify the whole expression, then resume when you're done. All right, for the subtraction, we'll need to distribute. The rest of it we can just leave as is. And then we'll combine our like terms. Negative 1, negative 6, positive 5. That's going to make negative 2. 7i, 2i, 1i makes 10i. Multiplication is going to be a little bit different. We'll start out the way we know how to multiply, in this case just distribute. 2i times 5 minus 2i times 6i. Careful on the back end, I times I makes I squared. All right, and then here's our issue. We're not allowed to have I squared in our answer. From the 4.10 lesson, we did learn that I squared is the same as negative 1. Because I is the square root of negative 1. When we square both sides, we get I squared is equal to negative 1. So we're going to replace this with negative 1, make sure it's still multiplication, because this is negative 12 times I squared. So that'll become negative 12 times negative 1. That becomes now positive 12. And the real part goes first. So we have to write it in this order, 12 plus 10i. I comes last, that makes standard form. Example number 4, a 2-term complex number and a 2-term complex number with a real and imaginary, real and imaginary. Now we're going to do all the distributing, distribute the -2 to both. So we're going to get -10 minus 8i. And now we're going to distribute the 3i to both. We're going to get a positive 15i and a positive 12i squared. All right, we can combine like terms here. Remember, again, I squared is -1. So this becomes positive 12 times -1. And that becomes -12, which now becomes a like term with -10. And we get our final answer of -22 plus 7i. And as far as operations go, the last one we got to look at is division, which kind of brings us back to when we were doing division with roots. We were saying that there was an issue with the denominator, let's fix the denominator. Same thing here. Before we get to that, go ahead and try this one. Pause the video here until you got your answer. Make sure it's an a plus bi form. I comes last. All right, when we distribute the 5, and now when we distribute the -2i, combine like terms, I squared is -1. 14 times -1 is -14. Combine that with positive 30. We get 16 minus 47i. All right, then as promised, the division problem, where the issue is we're not allowed to have i's on the bottom. So we got to fix that. And the way that we fix that is kind of with our difference of squares factoring pattern. So it turns out to be, we're going to multiply top and bottom by what's called the complex conjugate of the denominator. So the denominator being 4 plus 3i. The complex conjugate means keep the a part the same, change the sign of the b part. So it will be 4 minus 3i. Okay, so it's not, you can't just multiply by the denominator. You've got to multiply by the conjugate of the denominator. So top and bottom by 4 minus 3i. Now in this case, keep in mind that above and below fraction bars act as if they are inside of parentheses. So it might be a good idea to put those parentheses in there as now we go ahead and do the multiplication. So distribute the 1, distribute the -3i, and on the bottom, distribute the 4, distribute the plus 3i. So I'm going to list it out horizontally this time. That's what we would get. We've got like terms here. That's going to make a minus 15i. I squared is -1, so that's a 9 times -1. We can say that's -9. On the bottom, this is the whole reason why we chose to do this. On the bottom, look how the i's cancel. We have I squared, but we know what we can fix the I squared by replacing it with -1. So -9 plus 4 is going to be -5. -9 times -1 is +9. Combined with 16 is 25. We can reduce this. 5 goes into everything, so reduce by 5 only if it goes into everything. We can also just distribute our division. So distributing the division, -5 over 25 minus 15 over 25. We kind of like to just push the I off so that it's this fraction times I. So it's A plus BI. Now let's reduce. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Our final answer, -1/5 minus 3/5. That's it for today. I'll see you next time.